Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Toggle3D.ai. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Dasha Vdovina, Product Manager of Toggle3D.ai, which trades on the OTC venture market under the symbol TGGLF and on the CSE under the symbol TGGL. Welcome, Dasha.
All right, thank you. We will jump right into it. Welcome to today's presentation for Toggle3D.ai. We will start off with a disclaimer here and then jump briefly into the team. So at Toggle3D, we are led by a pool of technical talent with Evan Gappelberg as the Chief Executive Officer. Our team has deep expertise in the field and have been doing an incredible job thus far with propelling Toggle3D forward. As for myself, I have the pleasure today of representing Toggle3D as the Chief Product Officer. Moving on to some brief information about our stock. So Toggle3D.ai did IPO in June of this year and reached a stock price high of $4.75, which made for a valuation of $61.7 million. As of Friday, Toggle3D was trading at 28 cents with a market capitalization of 9.27 million. This does tell us the stock is tremendously undervalued, and we see this as an opportunity for growth. A little summary of Toggle3D. So what it is Toggle3D is a web application for converting 3D CAD files into a 3D mesh. For those that don't know, CAD files are these heavy manufacturing file formats, and they're used to make buildings, products, engineering systems. And these softwares are very technical, and thus they're used by a very technical audience, such as industrial designers, product designers, engineers, and others. So what we do at Toggle then is we take these heavy manufacturing files and we'll convert them into a lightweight 3D mesh. And this mesh then can be used for many, many applications. This is how we unlock that power of the 3D CAD file format. What we do in our conversion is that essentially we are stripping the file of all of the engineering complexity, and we are kind of transforming the outer shell into a 3D mesh in a typology for 3D content creation that lends itself for texturing and use cases on the web. Through building this application, we are disrupting the computer-generated imagery software market. We're building this application in a way where anybody can get started, and know the platform in no time. We are doing a lot of this by using AI-powered creative tools, and in that way as well, disrupting a lot of the legacy industry workflows. And as I had mentioned, we're doing this all from CAD. So transforming CAD into the world for 3D content creation in the CGI world. I did mention that we're using artificial intelligence in the platform, so I just want to briefly talk about the market of AI now and in the future. So by 2030, AI is expected to balloon to a massive $22 trillion market with a massive growth that you see here. This is not very sort of unexpected, as we do see that AI is actually attracting the most VC money from any other industry year over year, starting in the graph here you see from 2017. Due to all of this VC capital that is being invested in AI, we're seeing a lot of applications come out of this market. And so when we ask ourselves, where does Toggle3D then fit into the world of AI? There's many different generative AI applications that we've seen thus far kind of exposed to us since, I guess, late last year. We've seen our ChatGPT use case, which is this bubble here for text. We've seen generative AI being used for images that was led by Midjourney. We've seen generative AI be used for speech, for code, video, the start of 3D model creation, and other applications as well. Toggle3D specifically fits into two main categories here. We are using generative AI in order to create images which become inputs for PBR materials. And we're also starting to, in our R&D laboratory, use generative AI to actually create 3D models as well, not just conversions from CAD files. So that's sort of where Toggle3D fits into the industry of artificial intelligence today. So as I had mentioned, Toggle3D is for converting 3D CAD files for Web 3D applications. But after we convert the file, there's other things that we do as well. We provide an interface for texturing the 3D file, for customizing it with materials and colors, and then for sharing it in 4K high quality models all in one place, all under one roof. This is a really big competitive advantage for us because a lot of the applications that we see today are desktop apps. And those are very powerful, very heavy systems that use a lot of the computer power of your system. And so by doing this all on the web, we're making it a lot more accessible, a lot more connected, and a lot more easier to use. So with that all in mind, let me share a little video of what Toggle3D is about today. So where does Toggle3D sit in today's industry? Well, Toggle3D actually serves as the bridge between engineering and design. So on the engineering side, this is where we have those heavy CAD software systems that I've been talking about. Players in the field include Autodesk, Dassault Systems, SolidWorks, all very known legacy players that have been leading the charge in the CAD industry. As I had mentioned, CAD files are engineering files, which means that they're very large in size. These engineering files contain all of the integrity, all of the mathematical equations, all of the calculations to make sure that this product or this building is foundationally sound when it gets manufactured or created in the physical world. Because these files are so large, it makes them really hard to be reused or really even just exported off the platforms and imported into a different system. Something else to note about these engineering files is that there's no creative design really involved here. These files are focused on the engineering components. So they're really focused on how parts fit together, how will this be constructed, but they're not really looking at the design aspect of these files. So the purpose of them is very different. And then lastly, they're not easily interoperable. And I sort of touched on this in the file size limitations, but it's not very easy to just export this file from a CAD software and then, let's say, import it somewhere else or reuse it for different purposes, because for the sheer size, it's very difficult to load in any other software system besides the software that it was built in. But then also in the process of exporting it, you may have to convert it to a different file size, different file format, or a different type of file altogether. And in that process, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Artifacts are often created, the file actually often gets broken, and this process has not been very seamless or very easy. So in essence, people just try to avoid it. On the other side of engineering, we have the 3D content creation piece, specifically for CGI. So players in this field include Blender, Keyshot, Adobe, and they're focused on also creating 3D content. But the 3D content they're creating is no longer for the engineering use case, but rather it's for the use case of design. So they're really only focused on the outer shell of the model, and they're focused on making this model kind of light enough that it can be used in other softwares, and that it can be sort of constructed in a way that doesn't have to kind of really go back or kind of reference the engineering integrity of it. So it's just used for design purposes. In these softwares, there's a very steep learning curve. You can actually now get your bachelor's degree in just these 3D content creation softwares. I mean, in fact, people get bachelor degrees just for the CAD software piece of it as well. And it takes quite a bit of time to ramp up your expertise and your knowledge. So the second point here is that there's a lot of technical skills being required. These technical skills means actually understanding the 3D industry and all of the development, all of the sort of engineering components of it, because a lot of developers actually are in the 3D content creation space as well, because it is quite tech heavy. But then it also transcends to needing now to learn the software itself. And these softwares are very complex. It takes months to learn them. Kind of the quickest that people talk about is like 3 to 6 months just to kind of get a hang of them. And then it takes years to actually be a true expert in them. And these softwares are very time consuming and disconnected. So not only do they follow a lot of industry workflows that take quite a bit of time, but they're also disconnected in the sense that because desktop apps have been created for a lot of these different use cases in CGI, people end up jumping from studio to studio to studio. We see Adobe, kind of a really great example of this. Their Substance collection is made up of 6 and more apps, just to kind of create your final asset for CGI. So Toggle then becomes this bridge between the two worlds. Our input is the engineering CAD files, and our output is this beautiful CGI 3D mesh. We're doing this in a way that is easy, so there's no experience required, no real expertise required. As long as you get your hands on that engineering file, you're able to use it in its simplest form. And the really awesome thing here is that we're actually inviting users into the industry that may have never seen themselves as 3D content creators before, because of just how complex it is always known to be. And one way that we're doing kind of this and achieving our goal of making the application very easy, but also very quick, is by using AI in our texturing flows and by building a lot of pre-made libraries and pre-made templates to get users jump-started and ultimately reaching their goal faster. This is a trend that we have seen be used by Canva, by Figma, by a lot of the leading industry players within the design world. In that case, particularly 2D design, and so now we're taking those same principles and we're applying it to 3D design. Here's another video of how we are using AI in our texturing workflow, specifically to make PBR materials. So just before I play this video, I'll talk a little bit about what a PBR material is. PBR materials are essentially 3D materials used for 3D modeling. They are very quickly becoming the industry standard, because they will actually create this photorealistic effect where they will react to light in the digital world as they would in the physical world. These PBR materials are essentially made up of lots of different 2D maps. When put together, give that 3D effect. And they are disrupting legacy workflow where materials are made procedurally, which means that the user, the 3D artist, is actually the one responsible for creating those photorealistic effects, versus in the PBR material, which stands for physically based rendered material, you can actually achieve this a lot quicker and arguably a lot more accurately. So this is a video again about how we're using AI to create those PBR materials. Awesome. So what you just saw there is that application of generative AI where you see that text prompt and the output is that image. That image is then layered with PBR properties and values that give it that photorealistic look, ultimately constructing that end PBR material. So that's very impressive, but let me show you something even more impressive. So just a couple weeks ago, actually, we launched a new AI feature, and it's called 4K material upscaling. What this means is that in that previous video, when you saw the AI create different variations from your text prompt, all of those variations were actually created in 512 resolution. The reason for this is speed, but also just that use case of being able to prototype through text prompts very quickly to ultimately generate that exact sort of material that you're looking for. So this is all done in a 512 resolution. And so you see that example right here on the left side. However, if you're trying to create something that's very photorealistic and high quality, you're going to want a 4K resolution instead. So what we've done is we've taken artificial intelligence and we've asked us to help, kind of some help in that process of going from 512 to 4K. So on the right, you actually see the 4K replica of the material on the left. But there's a little trick to this. So not only are we upscaling the material to make it 512 to 4K, but we're actually asking artificial intelligence to look at the 512 resolution of the image, look at the text prompt, and then add any details that might be missing in the 512 resolution. This is a really good example because you can see those white fabric thread pieces being added to the image on the right. This is something that you don't even see on the image on the left, but it gives that texture a much more realistic feel. So this is an example of going from 512 and asking AI to upscale to 4K. Okay, so the total addressable market of Toggle3D. So now that we kind of know what the application does, what is the opportunity here? Well, as I already mentioned, we are disrupting the global computer graphics market. The application software market alone is expected to reach 160 billion by 2027 with a compounded annual growth rate of 5.8%. This software market includes the CAD software that I was talking about, but also softwares for visualization, digital video, imaging, modeling, and animation. The biggest propeller in this industry is actually the AR/VR application of this, as those applications do require 3D formats. And so everybody now is looking at 3D in this global computer graphics market. Something also that's really unique about Toggle is that we're using that CAD file to be the engine for generating 3D content. And then that means that this CAD file actually empowers now 3D creation in all aspects of the product lifecycle, not just engineering. So for example, one CAD file, you import it to Toggle, and it gives you all of these different use cases. The first one we'll talk about here is product design. So this is just being able to prototype through the final version of your product. So it's those materials that we saw be created in the video. It's those advanced customization settings that we offer users to tweak and edit the materials. These are the sort of product design that we're talking about. What we've heard already from design teams, from some of the early adopters, is that this sort of product could save them a lot of money in just being able to prototype with their customers or with their stakeholders within the company for that final sort of design of the product, or even of buildings and architectural services. This allows for a medium that both you and your stakeholder both understand and can work through, and it helps deliver product vision and product design much more clearly. We also see the use case of custom sales, customizations. We're seeing this use case generally on the rise in all sort of D2C kind of companies that we're seeing come in different industries, and sort of more of them are now prevalent in our buying decisions. So for example, customizing a shoe, right? So usually you'll see this D2C manufacturer, they'll provide you the base of the shoe, and then there's certain things that you can customize in it. This is exactly the sort of application that we're seeing here. So for example, you have the shoe, the user will customize the shoe based on their liking. They'll price it, they'll quote it, and then they'll come to manufacture it. So 3D, you're able to do this in an environment that you understand and ultimately will be purchasing in. E-commerce. So e-commerce is another very popular use case here. This is retailers and manufacturers wanting to showcase their product more prevalent in the e-commerce space. We're seeing e-commerce on our rise post-pandemic, and this is the use case that really benefits from it. We see product marketing and ads. So this is replacing your product photography on your website with 3D content. So your 3D asset now becomes the input for the photography, for marketing catalogs, for kind of product presentations, for lifestyle photography. And then lastly, AR, VR. So we're seeing this use case also on a rise, especially with all the AR, VR headsets that we're seeing to come out. Again, all of that input needs to be in 3D, and therefore we're able to repurpose CAD files now for a 3D mesh within these AR, VR scenes. Our target users, very briefly, so Toggle3D is targeting B2B individual contributors and teams. So we are looking for the next generation of users and teams that know that 3D is going to be the next visual medium and want to empower this in their organization. So as I mentioned, we're seeing industrial designers coming straight from that CAD software into Toggle3D and learning the aspects of design beyond just engineering. We're seeing product designers themselves from B2C brands that are recreating their physical product into the digital world, or they're just prototyping and creating something new. We're also seeing the graphic designer from marketing agencies, but also from B2B manufacturers and D2C brands that are now able to repurpose 3D content to make their 2D collateral, but also to experiment with collateral that isn't 3D. For example, that e-commerce application. Since Toggle3 has launched in June, the product is taking off. So as a really quick highlight of the product thus far, we had 2,600 users in our beta program, which lasted for about 6 months. We then did a product launch and IPO'd in June of 2023. Since then, we've been able to gather over 18,500 users, and we're still growing very rapidly. The users have created over 20,000 projects. We're seeing both individual contributors and enterprise brands on Toggle, just to name a few here. And we've also been able to test a lot of breakthrough AI technology with our beta community. So as you saw, the text to material, this is something that we were able to test and is now released live in Toggle. We were able to convert CAD files to make them 10 times smaller than their original input file size, which is just incredible. We've been able to create generative AI photo renderings of a user's 3D file. And we've also been able to remove the internal parts of a CAD file to make it even lighter post-conversion. Some of the Toggle3D applications and use cases we see today. So all of those use cases that I talked about are applicable in lots of different industries. And these are the sort of industries that we're seeing Toggle3D attract. So digital twins, this is creating the 3D replica of an environment that is then used for simulations. We're seeing 3D printing on the rise. We're seeing a lot of architectors come from the architectural services to be able to visualize and sell clients and other stakeholders on their designs before going ahead and proceeding with the makeover. We're seeing custom manufacturing. So I gave a use case here on customizations. A lot of D2C brands on the rise now because of such a big industry in custom manufacturing. And then we're also seeing video games, gaming, new gaming applications in VR are becoming very prevalent, and we have been attracting a lot of use cases and users from that industry as well. Lastly, we'll just talk really quickly about the business model here. So Toggle3D is a SaaS platform, reoccurring monthly revenue. So we have 2 main subscriptions on the platform today, and they are the primary revenue drivers for Toggle. The first one being our free users. So we do have a limited version of our platform available absolutely for free for people to try out, for students to learn off of. And it has very limited features, but nonetheless, it lets you learn the platform very prominently. Then we have our Pro license. So this is for the professional users looking for all of the advanced AI tools at $19 per month per seat. We have our Enterprise. This is more for the custom solutions for a lot of the enterprise companies that we're working with and that we're piloting with. These deals range anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000 annually. And then we're about to launch our team license in the beginning of Q1 for 2024, which will get the entire team on Toggle with collaboration tools and other advanced features. And we are also launching additional add-ons to the subscription that even free users can benefit from in 2024, which will be an additional revenue driver. With that will conclude our Toggle3D presentation, and we'll move on to questions. So I do have a couple of questions here. The first one is sort of what is the next focus for the business moving forward? So there's a couple of things that we're doing. We are launching new use cases. So the virtual photography studio is something that we're going to be launching in order to allow users to create 2D renderings using AI from their 3D models. So that's another new use case that we're branching into. Also enhanced collaboration capabilities. So this is what's going to let us unlock that Teams license. And we're also focusing on the conversion rate. So we've got a lot of users, a lot of data, and now we're really focusing on analyzing that data and getting as many people as we can stick to that Pro plan. The next question I have here is, who are you seeing the most traction from? So I did kind of talk about this briefly, but we are seeing those industrial designers and the product designers most on Toggle. But what's really interesting is that we're seeing new users on Toggle as well that are completely new to the 3D world. And this includes marketing teams and sales teams. And what they've told us is that Toggle3D is making it really easy for them to step into that industry. So we're very excited about that as well. And the last question I have here is, what separates you from other competitors? Yeah, so there's a few things. The first one is that we are not building on top of a legacy system. And this is really important because it allows us to move really quickly. We are transforming legacy workflows, and we're doing this in an AI-first way. So that's the first part. Second part is that we are on the web. And I've mentioned this a few times, but that is very important because it allows accessibility, connectedness, very easy. And so a lot of these heavy processes are being redesigned to be nice and light on the web. And the third part about us that separates us from competitors is that we're allowing current users in the industry to take advantage of more efficient workflows, but we're also inviting new users into the industry because of how easy we've made the platform. So those are the three main kind of differentiators between us and our competitors. With that, that summarizes Q&A, and thank you everyone for listening into today's presentation.